I don't know about you, but I enjoy thoroughly meeting people who have this power to persevere, to go through difficulties, to fight through obstacles, especially when those obstacles caused a major revision to what was a different life plan. And that's the case with our featured guest today, as he goes officially by the name of the Professor of Perseverance. Dr. James Perdue joins us here on the Big Impact. And Dr. Perdue or James or Jim or Dr. Jim, I don't know which way you want me to go with all that, but it's good to see you. How are you?
Bill, thank you for having me on. And I tell people, don't get the doctor out of range or anything. I tell them, I said, I can't write out a prescription for you, but I could drive you to your local pharmacist and pick one up for you if you need me to.
Very good. Well, that's the kind of help that we need quite often, right? So this title, Professor of Perseverance, is really intriguing. It's really interesting. And I know that it all comes out of a cataclysmic event that happened in your life many, many years ago. So as we build up to that part of the story on a date that later on would live in infamy, being September 11th, in your case, 1983, what was the life of little Jimmy Perdue like before then?
And little Jimmy, let's go ahead and say James. Little Jimmy is my grandfather goes by, but James here, please. And well, I was one of them, grew up, wanted to be a professional athlete, wanted to, play baseball, be the home run king, be the Nolan Ryan of my time, and wanted to make money to help my family. My father died when I was 16. And so I had to grow up and be the man of the family early. I got an older brother, but he's not mechanically inclined. And fortunately I was. And so, and not that we were poor, but we were knocking on the door of being poor. And so when it would get too cold here in Tennessee and our pipes would freeze sometimes, we couldn't afford a plumber. So I was the one going under the house, find the freezing point. If the pipes burst, had to fix it for us. If the summertime, if it rained and our roof leaked, I had to be the roofer. I had to be the mechanic. So I was the one that kind of grew up a little fast to help out the family. So I wanted to take my baseball talent to be a professional athlete, to give my mom a new home, my mom a new car, help my brothers get them stuff. You heard of mail order brides back then? I was going to give my mom a mail order groom to help her out since my father had passed away. So that was my ambition, my desire in life, is to be this professional athlete and to help out my family.
How did you kind of come to that idea that if anybody's going to step up and be the man of the house, it better be me? Was it something that your father had instilled in you, or did you just kind of have that built in?
I think it's kind of a little bit of both, built in. And again, my older brother, he knows how to put gas in the car. He knows how to turn the radio on and start the car. But if you asked him to change the oil or change the tire, he has no clue. And so when I was 7, 8 years old, my dad was a mechanic, and I would follow him around wanting to be a mechanic like dad and everything. And so when I was 11 or 12 years old, I changed my first brakes on a car. He watched me do everything, taught me how to do it. When I was 16, I was pulling my first engine out of a truck, tearing it all apart, rebuilding, putting new rings in, new bearings, cam, everything like that, and dropped it back in. So I had my backup plan. Again, wanted to be a professional athlete, but if that didn't work out, I was going to be a mechanic. And again, it followed through. It was built into me, and Dad teaching me.
Okay, so for the young budding athlete that is James Perdue, rank in order of preference your sports for me. I can see, let me just tell everybody who's listening that if you want to see the video version of this conversation, you'll find it on our website at bigimpactradio.com. And if you were watching, you would see over the shoulder of James Perdue, you'd see an autographed football, an autographed basketball. I see a baseball on one of the shelves. So back in junior high and high school, how did you rank the sports in order of your interest?
In interest, baseball is number one. That's what I played. I didn't play officially in school, basketball and football, but I played it, recreational with the the neighborhood kids and other people. So, but it would be baseball, then football, and basketball would be ranked in order. And you can see in the back behind me, for the ones that can't, that when I was coaching in the school level, I won a state championship with my team at one time. And the football above, that's from the movie, uh, Facing the Giants. A friend of my, one of my students, and was traveling during their spring break, and their dad worked with the Christian bookstore here in Nashville, and they went to the Facing the Giants place, and she thought enough of me, my student did, to bring back this football, this autograph by most of the actors and people there. So that's special to me.
Well, we never know, I think, fully how to prepare for those moments in life where everything changes. And that's why they call them accidents, right? And as part of your journey of pursuing athletics, some sort of a sports world, whether it was professional or just to get out there and be part of the school team, you had a moment on a football field that was that life-changing moment. So can you lead us into September 11, 1983?
1983. I tell people I had 9/11 before our country had 9/11
Yeah.
in 1983, where the country was 2001. Not that I'm trying to compare and contrast, but you know, I was way before, and life does come and life makes changes, whether you're willing to change at that time or where it's thrust upon you. And what had happened is the day before, I got to play one college game in the baseball. I was the only freshman starting, and so I just knew my career was leaping and ready to full blossom into what I wanted. The very next day, there was people on the campus playing football. It was tackle football, but no pads, no helmets, no protective gear whatsoever. But we were playing tackle. We'd been out there a couple hours. My team got the ball back, and I remember saying to the team, "Hey, I need to get my stuff ready for class tomorrow, the next day. I'm done playing for today." So I walked out of the huddle. I got maybe 10 feet away, and I heard someone say, "We need someone to run the ball." Now, I've quit playing, right? Because I've left the huddle. So I turned around after I heard someone say, "We need someone to run the ball." I said, "All right, I'll come back for one more play." They hand the ball off to me. I bust through the line, broke a couple of tackles, scored a touchdown. And as I turned towards everyone, because scoring a touchdown, plays over now, dead ball. So I'm putting the ball down. But as I'm turning towards everyone, I see something in my peripheral vision on my right side. I have no idea. I just see something. About shoulder high, I feel some contact on my right side. Then I hear a loud pop. And we both go to the ground. And Bill, I'm going to give you a little hint now. Only one of us returned to our feet. And I'm going to let you guess which one didn't return to the feet.
Yeah, I think I'm probably talking to him right now. So
I was paralyzed instantly.
Yeah, let me make sure I understand. You're playing just a fun pickup game, out in the playground or some area near school. You're done. Somebody says, "Hey, we just need you for one. We need somebody to run the ball. You go in for one play. You score, which should have ended the one play, and then kind of get blindsided by somebody who didn't know when to say when. Is that what happened?"
And surprisingly, when you're laying in bed paralyzed, you have a lot of time to think about the past.
Yeah.
And about 5 plays before this guy broke my neck, about 5 plays, he hit someone else up high. And I remember yelling at him, "Man, the way you're playing, you're going to break someone's neck out here."
Oh, my goodness.
And then a couple of plays later, yep, is what happened. He took the game more serious than most of us did that day.
Yeah, apparently, and hopefully didn't keep playing ever again. But we'll get to him in a little bit. I'm curious as to the immediate aftermath. So you're out, you're on the ground, and you're not going anywhere. At some point, a phone call has to be made home. And like I said earlier, all of life now is in a completely different direction. So can you walk us through the aftermath of how well you remember those moments?
I was conscious the whole time. I never lost consciousness.
Were you in
There
pain?
was a guy. Do what? I'm sorry.
Were you in great pain?
Wasn't a lot of pain. I mean, I had felt, some pain in my neck on the right side, but no, it wasn't a lot of pain. Fortunately, there was a guy that was going to school to be a paramedic, EMT, something, and he's barking orders. I remember I'm laying on the ground, he's barking orders because I tried to get up 3 times. I lift my head, nothing come up. You lift my head 3 times, nothing came up. Shoulders didn't come up, arms didn't come up, legs didn't come up. And this guy all of a sudden he's hollering, run to my room and bring a blanket, bring my stethoscope, bring my blood pressure cup, and bring me some pencil and paper. And he's writing down my blood pressure, trying to keep me calm, didn't want me to go into shock, and had all that information to give to the ambulance when they got there. And so I wish I could get a hold to him, but I don't know his name or anything. But I wish I can get a hold to him and thank him for that. So they get me to the hospital, and where I was in college, apparently they couldn't handle spinal cord injury, so they shipped me to Nashville. And so I was in the hospital, and there's where they confirmed what I already knew, that my neck was broken, paralyzed instantly. And the only reason I know that is because I remember when I was 14 years old, I met this gentleman named JT. I used to go to the nursing home and visit my grandfather. And one day I went to go visit, and the room before my grandfather, apparently a gentleman had just been moved in up there. And as I was passing his room to go to my grandfather, I heard someone say, "Hey, buddy, can you come here for a minute?" And I go into his room, and he said, "Can you hold this cup with the straw so I get a drink of water?" So I held it for him, and I noticed his arms are just curled up beside him, and come to find out he was paralyzed from his neck down from a car wreck. So as I'm laying on the ground, I'm thinking of this man named JT, and thinking at the age of 19, I'm going to be in a nursing home. And so that's what I've been thinking of while laying on the ground.
Yeah, and,
So they
and
could,
I have to think that while you're in this, in these early moments, that every possible emotion is running through you. Scared, you got to be scared to death. I would be. I think everybody listening would be terrified as to what's going to come next. Let's remember back in 1983, technology and medicine fairly different than it is in 2021. So there were a lot less, maybe treatments or protocols that they would follow. Were you just frightened as to what was going to happen?
I really wasn't frightened. I don't know what it was. No, I wasn't. I didn't have time to be angry. I didn't have time. Yeah, I guess I was just in the moment, just thinking. I knew baseball was over with because being paralyzed. But growing up, I had this invincibility because I always thought I was going to do what I wanted to do. Nothing was going to stop me. So I even had during it early on this injury, I had the invincibility mindset that I would walk again. I knew I'd never play ball again, but I always thought I would never would walk again sometime. And so yeah, that was on my mind most of it. Just I'll return, just I may be stumbling or whatever. But then again, I kept thinking of JT, referring back. Here's a guy because he's the only spinal cord injury I've ever met. So here I'm thinking again, I'd be in a nursing home for 19. So I'm flip flopping back and forth on that point.
Our guest here on The Big Impact is Dr. James Perdue, professor of perseverance. And as he lays out the journey that led to that ill-fated day, September 11th, 1983, and the football game and the cheap shot, which is what it was. Whether the guy intended it to be that way, that's really what it is. I want to get into the journey after this, but I'm curious if you ever had an opportunity to speak to the guy who hit you.
I think, I think he came to the hospital to visit one time. I couldn't pinpoint him, if he was in a police lineup, I couldn't point him out. I was only in college for 2 full weeks, and I would never be able to point him out. But I think he came to the hospital once, and the only reason I think that I was put on what's called a striker frame, had these screws put in my head, and like a horseshoe that had a string to help 10 pounds of weight on it to stretch my neck. And so on this striker frame, I'd lay 2 hours on my back, and then they would strap me in and flip me over. Then I'd lay an hour on my stomach. Then after an hour, they'd flip me back over, 2 hours on my back, trying to prevent sores. One day I was facing, well, at this one time, one day I was facing down, facing the floor, and two gentlemen came in to talk to me, and they told me they were from the school, Martin Methodist, and everything. They come to check on me and everything. Here's the only reason I think this guy might have been there is when both of them left, I heard the door shut, but then I heard it open up, and I heard someone say, "I'm sorry, man," and then shut the door. So I'm assuming that may have been him coming in, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah. And far be it from me, of course, to conjecture on what was going through his mind and through his heart and what kind of remorse and all that. I'm wondering, though, all these years later, if for some reason he were to hear this conversation or somehow you encountered him, what would you want to say to him?
I would tell him that I have no ill will. I hope the best for him in his life, even though at the time mine was just thrown all over the place and the life that I knew it had died and a new life had begun. Eventually, over time, life had turned out pretty good. You know, when I went to college, I only went for 3 reasons: to hopefully get drafted, to again help take care of my family, to party and meet women. That was it. I didn't go to have grades. I just went to go for those 3 things. I knew I would never graduate. So after all of this, again, I have a doctoral degree. You know, I was forced to learn how to study and everything then, because you can't play ball anymore. So you got to do something. And so, you know, again, coaching a state championship team, got into coaching, teaching. So I've been over in Africa as an ambassador for disabled people. So I mean, life has turned out better than I ever thought it would be. And again, who knows, if I wouldn't have got hurt, 1% of the athletes ever make it to the pros. So if I'm not in that 1%, who knows, I may have been laying underneath the river bridge, covered up in a cardboard box, homeless, looking for my next meal. We never know. I know where I'm at today. I would just tell him I hope the best turned out for him as well.
James, how long did it take you to get to that point where you decided, all right, this is now life. Let's do something with it? Because nobody would blame you if you had said, I'm going to lay here for a few years. I'm ticked, I'm hurt, I'm sad, I'm depressed. So what was that kind of that timeline like between injury, initial treatment, and then determination?
Again, I had that invincibility, so I was determined to try to walk again. It was just a few months later, after my injury, on Halloween night, I was able to start moving my legs some. And so I'm going, wow, now we got something going. So now we got some hope here. So the first 5 years of my injury, I went to 18 different rehabs trying to find that cure to walk again. Now, most of them are one-day evaluations. Drove to Pennsylvania 18 hours for the guy to spend 15 minutes with me to tell me, nope, there was nothing he can do for me. And then, so to Atlanta from my house is like a 4.5 hour drive. To spend a couple hours with them, nope, well, you've done all you can. There is nothing more. Spend 3 months at a rehab with the Miami Project. And yeah, so after finally the last one, I tell people not at that time, what I'm going to say here, not at the time was a lie, but it eventually being a lie to my family and me. After 5 years and 18 visits, 18 places trying to find that cure, that's when I told my family, and I said, not that I'm quit walking, I'm going to try to quit walking, but we need to put it on the back burner. If I'm going to have a life, I need to go to school, finally decide to study, get my degrees, get up and do something. I said, because I don't know many people in wheelchairs that are working without degrees to me, because I didn't know a lot of people then. And so that was then when I decided after the 18th visit, 5 years, again, not that it was a lie at that time, but it turned out being a lie because I never been to another rehab to try to walk again.
Were those dark times? Were
Oh
were you
yes.
depressed?
Oh
Were you
yeah.
angry? What?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Driving uh 18 hours for us
Right.
to get to Pennsylvania. My brother went with me, a friend of ours went with us. It was a 2-day journey to get there. And for the guy to spend 15 minutes. And then I'm going, what the hell? I said, 15 minutes for all this, and then leaving back. And I told my brother and a friend and said, we're going back to Tennessee tonight. And so here we are driving 18 hours. Dumb me. Now I regret this, and here we are. It's like 3 a.m. We're half driving and sleeping, and not pulling. And I mean, it's fortunate we didn't wreck. And one time we stopped to get gas, and my brother and friend, they said they were just going to stand up to me and go, "Hey, we need to tell James." Said we're going to tell him we got to get a hotel room, sleep. We'll get home tomorrow. So they come to tell me that, stand up to me. I said, "Good, get you a hotel room. I'm heading to Tennessee now." And that's how mad I was. Well, that was stupid of me. That
Well,
was stupid.
yeah, I was going
I
to say,
should have, but we did make it home safely. But that was stupid. But yeah, there were several times when I come back and go, man, this is this bunch of crap. You know, I'm trying to get better, and they want most of them rehabs. They want to teach you how to live in a wheelchair, and because rarely do people get up and walk again. And see, I didn't accept them terms. I can move my legs now. Let's do something with them. And finally, when I accepted everything, then life seemed to move a little better.
yeah. I've had the privilege, James, of interviewing a couple of other people over the years who have encountered accidents that have led to them being paralyzed. A young lady by the name of Kaylee Pung, who is in northern Michigan, who a diving accident off of a boat into a sandbar in a lake. And Kaylee requires 24/7 care. Can't breathe on her own, and it's literally somebody's by her side all the time. And yet, she has raised tens of millions of dollars to care for injured veterans, as well as for spinal cord research, with the caveat that none of it go to her. I mean, it's just remarkable. And then there's a young man by the name of Zach Tomlinson, who was on this program a couple of years ago. I've known Zach since he was a little boy, and he dove into a river and broke his neck. And um, kind of similar to what you're talking about, where enough people come by and say, oh, no, we're going to get this to where you're going to be fine. And it's not. And Zach, though, much like you, determined that, all right, that's not going to define me. And he's going on to serve on the school board. He's getting his degree right now, his advanced degree, so that he can be a counselor and a social worker and things. And in fact, his episode on this program was among the top 5 we've ever had from a listenership standpoint. And I point that out because I'm so impressed that you did not allow the injury to become the definition of who James Perdue is, right? You're still you. You're still all of those wonderful things that the walking version of James Perdue was. Now you have to do it in different ways. And I want to talk about some of those different ways here in a moment as we continue on the Big Impact. We are talking with Dr. James Perdue, Professor of Perseverance. By the way, that's also his website, professorofperseverance.com. And you can find out the entire story. We're telling a lot of it here, but you'll find out even more about James. In 2005, he was named by Fox 17 the top teacher of the week, teacher of the year in 2002, coach of the year in 2000 and 2006. A bunch of awards coming your way. You received your doctorate degree in May of 2011 from Tennessee State University. So this Professor of Perseverance is not just some made up branding name. You've actually got a doctorate here. What was that journey like?
It was pretty good. It wasn't as difficult as I thought. Again, remember when I first went to college, I had no intention of graduating. But again, when you get paralyzed, you have plenty of time to learn and think then. But it was good. My doctoral committee and the head, she was Dr. Pangle. She was awesome. She really took me under her wing. A grandmother just really taking care of me. and helped me get through everything. And it was good. It was fun.
Well, when you go through a program like that, I would have to think it distracts your mind from some of the physical challenges and really puts you to the test because frankly, how many of us want to go back into a classroom at an adult age? I did okay in school, but I don't want to go back and have homework assignments. So what was it like adjusting to the rigors of a curriculum?
Yeah, I went back 14, 15 years later after I got my master's, after I was teaching and coaching. So I was teaching during the day, coaching during the winter with basketball and baseball, and taking night classes to work on my doctoral. So I had a big plate full. And so, but the purpose of going back was I was looking to get into a high school coaching, get out of the middle school to get into high school. And at one point there was two positions opened for ninth grade coaches. And my assistant at the time, been with me 1 year, I knew she wanted to get into high school and she knew I wanted to get into high school. So we figured she'd get one, I'd get one. Well, she got both of them. I got zero. Okay.
The math didn't work out very well.
Exactly. But she played on the all-state team, and one of the schools that was looking was the team she played for. And we both went to school at that same school. But she was younger than me, and I was older. But she played on a basketball team that won the state, so I could see that they would want her back home. So, but the other one again was looking for a coach, and they knew me and everything. And what had happened is she got the first job. She didn't like it after a month there. She quit, and they got hired at the second one. And I never got called for either one of them. So after that, I decided I'm going back and work on my doctorate degree and get into teaching, probably not coaching, but at least in the college level. And so that's the reason I went back for that. It was discrimination, and I wasn't going to sit here for it anymore.
So with the doctorate, with this title of Dr. James Perdue, what do you want people to know? What do you want to do with that degree? And what really is the professor of perseverance all about? What's your driving motivation today?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking that, Bill. No, when I went for a doctorate, again, it wasn't really, when I said to maybe teach in a university or whatnot, that wasn't the main goal. I figured that was going to be my backup plan again. I thought by having a doctoral, it would open more doors for me to get into speaking, to get into be a motivational, inspirational speaker now, that about having that title would help out the open doors. So that was then I decided when I was going to get out of coaching, teaching, that I was going to just get into speaking full time and, write my first book and, get up and help other people, fire them up, get them motivated, get them inspired. I used to, when I would interview for a job to get into education, one of my main thought process that I thought was a very big strength, I would tell them, I say, if the students realize how much trouble it was for me to get out of bed, to get dressed, get a shower, to drive and get here, surely they can get here if they just have a headache. And so if they witnessed that, they would take that in. And so that was going to be, my drive is for that was to get to be a motivational speaker. And how to come up with the professor of perseverance, I got to thank John Bentley. John Bentley, thank you, brother, for helping me out with this. I was going to the National Speakers Association. I met John, and he knew that I wanted to get in and talk about persevering is what my main topic was going to be. And one day we're at the National Speakers Association, and all of a sudden I hear someone going, "Hey, professor of perseverance." I ignored him. Professor of perseverance. I go, huh? Who are they talking to? And then John says, "Hey, James." He said, "I'm calling you." I said, "What?" He said, "You're the professor of perseverance." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you have a doctor, don't you? A doctoral degree, don't you?" "Yeah." "All right, professor. And you want to talk about persevering?" "Yes, sir." "All right, you're the professor of perseverance." So that's how I got the branding and tagging for that. So John Bentley, again, thank you, brother.
Yeah, so he may not get big residual checks, but at least he planted that brand on you, right? That's pretty cool.
Yes.
I was also thinking as you talk about all of the things that you endured, that there must be in our listening audience a number of people who either themselves or perhaps have a family member or a close friend who has gone through something traumatic. It may not be paralysis, but perhaps it's something else that's really been a complete game changer. And I know that you do a podcast, you've got a YouTube channel, and all sorts of things on through your website at professorofperseverance.com. So I thought, if you're okay with it, for the last 5 or 6 minutes, I'm going to fire some questions at you that perhaps people listening would like to ask. And I'll let you kind of share a kind of a brief, a few sentences or a paragraph about each one that can guide people a little bit. All right. So
Yes, sir.
here's the first one. What do you do with all those times when you're just livid at the situation that has been brought about unexpectedly?
I tell people you need to work on the ABCs. To just make it simple, think of Michael Jackson singing ABC, 1, 2, 3. It's all I can do is ABC. All right. A, accept the adversity. Sooner as we accept it, the sooner we can move on in life. B, begin battling. How do we begin the battle? Well, with the tips of our fingertips, getting on the internet now, let's find some organizations, some mentors, some coaches, find some information, reading, movies, motivational YouTubes on what you're going through. People have been through what you're going through. Don't think you're the first one. And then after getting all that, C, let's conquer the challenge. Take everything we've got now, and then let's go out and beat it and do the best we can to have a good life.
Question 2. You've got every legitimate right to be livid at the guy that broke your neck. What do you do with the bitterness behind the circumstance?
It goes back to, I tell people, the Bible tells us we need, and of course, growing up, your grandparents and parents, forgive others. All right. And so that's easier said than done. You can say you forgive them, but if you let this poison continue living in your mind, it's not going to help. So here's what I also believe. Not only should we forgive others, I believe we should forgive ourselves for our past mistakes. Forgive yourself. I mean, I could easily, like you said, laid in bed and whine and cry, why me? Why this happened to me? If I would have kept walking that day, where would I be at today? I could have easily done that, but that's not going to get me anywhere. So let's move on. Forgive yourself, forgive the others, and go.
I heard somebody recently describe bitterness as you drinking poison and hoping somebody else gets sick. Right? Because it's just not going to happen. It's just kind of festering up within yourself. Question 3: how do you mark progress? Whether it's in your physical goals or in your career goals, what do you do when you want to see, am I making a difference? Am I doing what I feel called to do? How do you address that?
Another thing, set baby steps so you can see some wins as you're going forward. And then when you get to your major goal in life, and mine at one point was learning to dress again. So people wouldn't have to do that for me. And so I set a time limit, like 8 months down the road, be able to dress myself. And if you beat that, that's awesome. If you go, it takes longer than the goal you set. Takes longer, that's when you decide, is this goal really worth going after or not? So if it took longer, I would go, do I still really need help? Maybe I do. Did I, go from there. So baby steps and wins. But also, here's what I've come to really learn is you don't have to know when people are watching you and learning from you and getting inspiration from you. You've got to have the mindset, somebody's watching, somebody's getting something and going. And the reason I say that is because if we are always worried about if people are watching, people are learning from us, or if I need some accolation. I need something to tell me that this is going good. If we wait for that accolation, it may never come. So you need to be able to learn, understand, and accept people are learning without you knowing. And great here, I'm sorry I'm taking a little longer on this one, but two examples of what I just said. At two different points, both of them about a year apart, I decided I'm done. I'm not speaking like I would like, what I would like. I'm not getting out like I want. So I'm done with the speaking. I'm going to start doing something else. It seems like both times when God came and kicked me in the butt, I went to the store to go walk my service dog, and both times about a year apart, a woman and a gentleman both come up to me and said, "Hey, I read your book, and I'm going to let you know it's going to help me in life." And so then every time I hear someone say they read my book, I always ask, if you don't mind, how did you get my book? Did someone refer it to you? Did you stumble across it? Did it come across on the internet? Did you find it laying in a gutter, in a ditch? You know, I ask them, and both of them told me I was locked up in the county jail where I'm growing up, and your book is in the county library jail, and I got to read it, and it's in what I've read, it's going to help me. Not that I needed that accolation, but God gave it to me when I needed it.
And you probably never thought to yourself, you know, I have this book out. I better get it to the county jail. So you never know.
And two people had told me that they both bought my book and they put it to the county jail. They sent it to it. Two different people told me that later on, after I was telling the story, and two different people told me, yeah, they sent it over there.
I love it. The name of the book is?
One More Play. Because again, I came back for one more play.
Well, all the information about Dr. James Perdue, the professor of perseverance, can be found on his website at professorofperseverance.com. And James, I'm so glad we got the chance to connect and hear your story. And I'm glad that you're able to influence and inspire other people today. So if we can ever help you with anything, please let us know. And thank you so much.
Bill, thank you for this opportunity to be here. And everyone else, thank you. And as I tell people, do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.